Hey, Christoph here. I'm working on this page, Fiat over Lightning, which Steven started, and I'm picking up his document illustrations, iterating on them. And I wanted to share my thinking here because it's a bit of a complicated page, and would love to get your feedback and validation to see if this is if I'm actually understanding this topic correctly. Okay, so it's called Fiat over Lightning, which I still don't think is the best title. The general idea is that sometimes we want to hold Bitcoin because that is the currency or the asset we want to hold. But other times we want to have euros or dollars or our other local government issued currency. Now, the page goes over different methods that this can be done. The most basic one here is called custodial services. That's where I simply do a basic trade. Just like I go to another country, I exchange my Bitcoin or my euro to dollars or something else. So I go to this website, this exchange, I send my Bitcoin there, I tell them I want euro right now, they switch it for euros, and then I can withdraw my euros. Very, very basic, right? Now I need to give up my Bitcoin for that, and I need to trust the exchange, who, as we know historically, there can be problems with that. Now, another way to go about this is using a market mechanism called a short position. So I try to illustrate everything here. So I'm starting here with what is a long position. That is basically I have Bitcoin, right? So one Bitcoin costs 100 euros. I buy half a Bitcoin for 50 euros. The Bitcoin price increases. Now my half Bitcoin is worth 75 euros. That means I've gained 25 euros. Now a short position is, instead of me buying a Bitcoin, I actually borrow half a Bitcoin from someone else, and then I sell it for those 50 euros, right? That means I have 50 euros now, but I also owe someone half a Bitcoin that I need to return. Now let's say the Bitcoin price increases to 150, the same change as before. So that's actually not good for me because I only have 50 euros and I still owe someone half a Bitcoin. So I actually need to buy back that half a Bitcoin for 75 euros so I can return what I owe. That means I've lost 25 euros now. So as you can see, the same change happens here in the price of Bitcoin, but instead of gaining, I'm losing now. So that is a short position. So I'm betting for me, in order to gain, actually make money, the Bitcoin price needs to go down. So it's like the two opposite directions here. Now the trick here with this synthetic fiat is that I have a long and a short position at the same time. So no matter how the price changes, they cancel each other out. So in this scenario here, I give my Bitcoin again to an exchange, so they hold it for me, and they also open up this short position for me. So now I have this long and the short position. So no matter what happens, I have the same amount of euros in the end. I might have more or less Bitcoin, but the value of those will always be the same in euro. And that is called a synthetic fiat or synthetic euro through this market mechanism. Now, as you know, there has to be, of course, someone else that I can, for this short position, to borrow these Bitcoin from, right? So there's another counterparty, which could be the exchange here. Now, there are some pros and cons to this one. So, it's interoperable. There's, of course, exchange risk. But, my synthetic euro, it's not something I can trade, right? So that's where we get to this next mechanism here. So here's where a custodian or exchange, and this is basically, Tether is an example of this. So this exchange holds euro, right? They have the actual real world euro in their bank accounts. And then they create these euro tokens. So they, let's say, go on the Lightning Network. So there's stuff like Taproot Assets or Tether. So they create like a digital representation. So whenever they add 1,000 euros to their bank account, they create 1,000 euros worth of these tokens. It's like a piece of paper in a way that says, this paper is worth €1 or so. So I give them my Bitcoin, my actual real world Bitcoin, which then they hold. And then they give me these tokens that they created. Now I can then give those tokens to other people as long as they trust that this place that created the tokens and holds the euros is good for them, that they can always exchange it back to the real euros. So that allows me, unlike this kind of a short long position thing, I can actually have this token I can then trade around. But I have to give up my Bitcoin again for that, and the exchange can go down. Now, third approach, and this one here is similar idea to all of the previous stuff, using discrete log contracts for difference. So instead of an exchange being in the middle here, there's actually a smart contract, and that is on-chain enforced. So it's like automatic code that handles this logic instead of an exchange in the middle. Now we don't have any tokens here. It's again the idea of this short and long position. So here we actually have two people, the smart contracts in the middle. The two people enter their Bitcoin into this. Then there's this exchange rate oracle. An oracle is basically a mechanism, because the blockchain has no idea about the price, the value exchange rate of dollar or euros, anything else. So that information has to come from somewhere, and the source that provides that exchange rate, that's an oracle. So the smart contracts takes Alice's Bitcoin, Robert's Bitcoin, and the exchange rate, and then it tries to ensure so that Alice always has an amount of Bitcoin that's always worth the same amount in euro. So here's an example of that. So one Bitcoin costs 100 euro. Alice and Robert each put 0.5 Bitcoin, each worth 50 euros in the smart contract. And then the Bitcoin price increases to 150 euros. Now, as I mentioned, the goal here is that Alice has always the same amount of euros, right? So in order for her to keep 50 euros worth of Bitcoin, she actually now has to have less Bitcoin. So the smart contract adjusts that. So from the one Bitcoin that was put in total, Alice is now assigned 0.33, which is then worth the 50 euros. And Robert has the 0.66. So he actually gained in Bitcoin, and Alice has lost relative Bitcoin value because she really wants that fixed euro amount. All pretty complicated, right? And this one is, I believe, just theoretical, that this is based on what Stephen wrote. So maybe something has changed in the last few months or so. But so these are all mechanisms where Alice can just say, I kind of want euro value. That's the stable euro value is for me important right now. My Bitcoin can fluctuate. I want that stable euro value. And these are all the different mechanisms that can be done. And that's kind of it. I find it pretty tricky to get through this. I hope this kind of makes sense. And would love to get your feedback on it. Thanks.